Hello everyone, my name is Maria and this is Knitting is Therapy. Welcome to my channel or welcome back if you have just found this video. Today I decided to talk about different yarn types, meaning the thickness of the yarn. Sometimes I struggle with selecting the yarn because not all of the yarn productions are marking their yarn with weight. Especially here in Ukraine, it's not really popular way of measuring the yarn thickness. But in some patterns, especially if I am testing some patterns, it's called for some fingering weight, light fingering weight yarn, sport weight, etc. It's hard for me to select something because I mostly rely on the meters that are included in 50 grams or 100 grams of the yarn. So that's why I decided to make such video to make it easier for myself to know the difference between different yarns and maybe share with you if you had similar issues as I have. I have some notes here in my laptop that I will be checking from time to time, and also I have some examples of yarns to show you what I have here and to check if I have the proper thickness of these types of yarn. So we will start with like the most thin one, or like the finest one, and we also all of us know that's a lace weight yarn. There's something also thinner, but not sure that we use it a lot for the knitting patterns and knitting projects. And I have silk mohair here. This such thickness is called lace weight yarn, and these balls are mostly going in 25 grams, including 225 meters per this ball. So it converts into 800 meters per 100 grams or a bit more. It depends. Mostly this length is enough for working with light fingering weight yarn. So 25 grams of lace weight mohair is enough to work with one ball of 50 grams of light fingering weight yarn, merino, for example. That's the next yarn that we will talk about. It's light fingering weight yarn. Here is the example of it. It's a bit stretchy, but you can see that it's quite thin yarn. This one, for example, the example is Sunday by Sandnes Garn, and it's an example of light fingering weight yarn because it has more than 400 grams per 400 meters per 100 grams. In one ball, there is 235 meters per 50 grams of yarn. Generally, it should consist, if you have some experience with bobbing yarns that are that you can combine by yourself using some thinner options. It includes 3 strands. If you take 4 of them, it will be fingering weight yarn. That's a bit thicker option of it. It looks like this. And the main thing is that fingering weight yarn, it's a little bit like less than 400 meters per 100 grams. Mostly it goes for socks. This yarn is Grundel. It's German yarn called hot socks. It's merino wool with cashmere and polyamide for socks. And that's like a regular weight for a sock yarn. That so if you check like most of your yarn balls that are sock yarns, they will have such a fingering weight metrage per 100 grams. I hope it helps. It also can be yarn that has 360 meters per 100 grams. I have also such options of the yarn. Mostly it happens for indie dyers, skins of sock yarn, because it may differ depending on the dyer. And the next one is sport weight. It looks like this. A little bit thicker than regular fingering and quite noticeably thicker than light fingering weight yarn. This one is a good option, especially in my case. You can see that it's very stretchy. So I use it as regular fingering weight yarn. I already have some experience with this yarn. It's very soft because it's superwash 100% merino wool yarn with a nice color selection that I like. That's why I'm using it instead of having fingering weight merino yarn with silk mohair for the project, if I don't want to add silk mohair there and the pattern calls for having it. So it just covers the lack of additional strength in the finished garment. So that was sport weight yarn, and generally it may have from 280 meters to 300 meters per 100 grams. In my case, it has 150 grams meters per 50 grams. And also one of the most popular ones, it's a DK weight yarn. You can see that it's quite thick yarn. Generally, it may be created by having two strands of fingering weight yarn together. For the DK weight, it mostly has 200 meters per 100 grams. And you work with this yarn on 4.5 millimeter needles. Then we are moving to the biggest one. It's worsted weight yarn. Worsted weight yarn, I don't have an example here, so I can just describe it, but generally it's like twice more of sport weight yarn, like 10 strands together. And this one may have 150 grams up to 150 meters up to 180 meters per 100 grams. Next option is Aran weight yarn. This one is not really different weight, but sometimes in some patterns it may be called like this. It's also used for the worsted weight yarn, so that's just the same name, Aran weight or worsted weight yarn. So a bit thicker than DK weight yarn. And we are moving to some big wools. There is a bulky weight yarn. It's just thicker than worsted weight yarn, so it may have like 100 or 125 meters per 100 grams, so quite a bulky version of the yarn, and you can work with it on 5.5 or 6 millimeter needles, even sometimes more. For example, I was making a vest using such yarn because I wanted something chunky and it's very quick knit on such a big needles, and in this case you may use bigger needles to make it go faster and to make it a bit softer, because the yarn itself is already sturdy because of the thickness, and you can create some additional holes and flexibility on the finished garment by just using bigger needles. Same works with a chunky yarn. It's extremely there is like a wide range. It's extremely thick yarn that is thicker than bulky yarn. that I mentioned before, it may have like 50 meters per 50 grams or sometimes even less. It depends, and it goes from 8mm needles up to 20mm needles, depending on your project, depending on the yarn. It's not so popular, especially bulky and chunky weight yarns, because it's very thick. It's mostly used for some rare ideas, maybe some home designs, and you will not use it most of the time for the garments because it will be too warm or too sturdy for wearing. That's why there's no such a big range differences comparing to light fingering and fingering weight yarns existence, you know. Um, Also, I've noticed that I forgot to mention the finest one option for the yarn. There is like the most thin option of the yarn that we mostly use for bobbin yarn when we combine different amount of strands together to find the proper thickness, and it's called Cobweb, like a spider web, extremely thin one that has a bit more than 1,800 meters per 100 gram. So that's it that we can say here. It's not mostly it's not used by its own. You just use several threads together to make some knitted garment with this yarn. And that was it for today. I hope that it was helpful for me and for you as well. And I will not have any issues with detecting the needed yarn in the future. In result of this video, let me know if it was useful for you. Don't forget to follow if you want to see more videos created by myself. Leave a like, and see you in the next videos. Bye bye.